All right, folks, welcome back. This is What's Out There, and I am Robinson Edward Deming. We are speaking to JC Dove about Theta Healing. Now, I understand that you have a process, I believe it's called an insight session, where you can talk to people about Theta Healing. So can you explain that process? If a person says, okay, I want to find out about Theta Healing, from like start to finish, what would you say in this session?
Right. What's happened over the years, because I've trained in a variety of energy healing techniques, I currently simply allow the information to come through so that someone can have clarity as to why certain things are happening. I can actually see someone's future based on current actions, so that becomes very helpful. If they're not liking the future that is foreseen for them, then there are certain programs or beliefs that are sort of in the way of them achieving something better than they're seeing, that I'm seeing for their future. So that can be released, using this particular format. And yet, because I've also studied the language of light through there's actually a language and also sacred geometry, colors, and movement that is incorporated within the language of light. I simply allow the teachings, all these teachings, to come through without saying, I need to do this one or that one. I simply let this other aspect of myself and also the other aspect of the client, sometimes we call it the higher aspect, to choose how it will come through. And nowadays, I very much find myself utilizing the language of light, where I'll see certain shapes, within my mind's eye, as the client is becoming aware of what's not working and they're willing to shift. And through that shift of consciousness on their part and their willingness to change for a more expanded way of life, then I simply see these sacred shapes moving into their field. And again, whether the client is right in front of me or 3,000 miles away doesn't matter, because it's all done within the field of indivisibility.
All right. Now, you mentioned a few other things, and you have answered a bunch of the terms that you had that you had mentioned in your presentation, but there was a few explanations I want to get before we close out our program. Hypercommunications, abilities beyond the normal extrasensory. What do you mean by that?
For instance, I was perhaps a little bit naive, many years ago, before I started to accept my gifts. I used to think that, everybody had these abilities, that, they could hear wisdom through their ears or feel it in their body. I thought everybody had that ability, and thought nothing of it when I would work in the intensive care nursery, and I would pick up really either changes before they occurred, so that the patient wouldn't have to go through the trauma of sudden deterioration in their health. And I would just, pick that up, and I think this baby is developing a pneumothorax, and we would, do a procedure, and sure enough, it was just beginning. So rather than, typically the nurse wouldn't be that astute to notice these very tiny changes, but somehow it's as if I picked that up, for just out of thin air. And that happened, many, many times. And then physicians would say, you're very intuitive. And I didn't know what that meant. And now, I'll have a sense of someone needing to hear my voice, and I'll call them up, and sure enough, they were thinking about me. So some of it is precognition, knowing something before it happens. And in working, having clients as people that have psychic abilities themselves, they've told me, Doctor, your abilities are beyond these, typical clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience. And part of it is the wiring that we're given, you know, through our DNA, our genetic lineage, which is, you know, very, very ancient. Some people are able to get wired a certain way to have a source light come through them and receive this information that is beyond these typical psychic abilities. And from, you know, my understanding and also acceptance of who I am, I'm one of those people. You know, and it took a while for me to accept them in a way and talk about them. You know, I felt I didn't want to come from ego saying, you know, I can do this, because for me, I feel there's a lot of responsibility that comes with these gifts. You know, honoring free will and accepting what people have chosen in their life experience, especially when it's someone that I really care about and I see the potential. I have given information, you know, 6 months ahead of time for people, choices for them to make, and seeing the outcome when the choice was not made. Yeah, so it's a gift, and sometimes it's difficult, you know.
Oh yeah, I can. I'm not sure if I want to be in your shoes. At least not right now. Now we are actually almost out of time, but there's one thing I really wanted to ask you. You recommended movies, okay? I guess something that might help explain some of the things you talk about, and some of the titles kind of said, yeah, I can understand that, like Field of Dreams and Celestine Prophecies, but The Matrix? I mean, yeah, I can see bending the spoon, but I'll be honest, about 5 minutes of listening to the Oracle, and I thought my head was going to explode. So what is it about The Matrix that actually, you know, made you recommend it?
Okay. Initially, right at the very beginning of the movie, you see a screen with all these numbers moving very rapidly, like, you know, like computers. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we are. We're a human being with this, like, computerized system within ourselves, and it's a matter of putting a new program within our consciousness to allow us to become what some would term, you know, superhumans, where Trinity, you know, jumped from rooftop to rooftop, and then she saw this window, which I refer to as a window of opportunity. And had she stayed with this moment of fear, she would have totally missed it, where she simply got herself together, grounded herself, and simply allowed her body through this small window. And in life, when we translate that, you know, to our daily life, oftentimes people will have an opportunity. And that opportunity, once they take it, leads to another opportunity. It's like a domino effect. So that movie allows people to wake up.
That's, yeah,
on a certain level.
So I guess I guess most of us are like Neo when he first tried to jump over the building. You know, when Morpheus leaps to the other building, and then Neo says, "Okay, I'm going to do it," but instead he backs up and then tries to get a running start like Wile E. Coyote, and of course we all know what happens there.
Yeah, so fear is a huge pattern that is holding human beings locked into limitation. And so it shows in the movie, when you hesitate, you miss the boat. So many, many details. And then, you know, when he takes, you know, he has a choice, which pill are you going to take? And many of us keep taking the pill of limitation, believing in the lies that we're fed through television, you know, all the media, feeding us subliminal messages, telling us to take these drugs that actually make us sicker, where he decided to take the pill of truth. And when you take that road, and it's very difficult to go back, and I use the analogy of a kernel of corn, once it's popped, can never return to its original form. So as you become more conscious, when you get to that next level, it's impossible to go back to the level of limitation. So that's what I'm here, you know, to help people transcend the state of limitation because of fears. And right now there's so many fears that are implanted, just like the bug that was implanted into Neo's abdomen. That's what a lot of drugs do to people. It's implanted, helping deteriorate their liver more quickly, the kidneys, and all the organs. So now there's also a lot of education surrounding food that is coming, within the teachings that I give people and students, how we're feeding us, food-wise and also mentally. What thoughts am I going to allow into my head? What kind of people am I going to hang out with to support you or degrade me? So there's a lot of that going on right now. People losing their jobs, and they're losing their job because it's time for them to move on. It's a window of opportunity for them to find themselves at a deeper level. And people are scared, so they'll come for a Theta Healing session to release some of these fear patterns, these programs that are limiting them, so they can move forward and see opportunities that are waiting for them.
Wow. Now I have to go back and watch that movie again, because apparently I wasn't watching the right stuff. I was just watching it for the action. Okay, folks, so that means down there, okay, folks, just remember this. Don't take the blue pill, take the red pill. All right? I want to thank JC Dove for joining us and explaining Theta Healing. And that will do it for this episode. And please join us again next time on What's Out There. And for Rob Francis, I am Robinson Edward Deming, and enjoy your day, and we'll talk to you later.